Who's that coming down the track? Who's that coming down the track? It's a mean machine, Rattler! It's a mean machine, Rattler!
What's up, y'all? This is John and Mike back for another episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. Once again, live on Millions and as part of the Fans First Sports Network. We are taking a break from the Puncher's Chance interviews to talk about really what everybody's talking about this time of year, especially this year, and that is the EA Sports College Football 25 football game. We are projecting who the highest rated dogs are going to be in this game, as well as some info we already know, like the top overall teams, tough stadiums to play in, kind of really any information we already know about. We're going to hit on that, and then I'll as well project some of the highest rated dogs. But if you haven't, go check out Mike's article on Fans First Sports Network's website covering this entire subject.
Yeah.
Mike put out a piece about that. You want to talk about it for a second?
Yeah. So I'm going to be doing some pieces here and there for the Fans First Sports Network, kind of relating back to what we were doing here for the most part. The plan like for the most part is to we'll the Nothing Finer top 25 that we've done during the season. I'll probably put that out there, for the people that are interested in that type of thing. And just kind of BSing along, just put some information out there about our favorite sport and team. So like I'm looking forward to it. Just doing it every once in a while. Nothing too regular necessarily, um but yeah, I mean, like as far as like this piece though, um wanted to try to get it out there before they actually announce it. I think they're actually announcing the at least the rosters. I think I want to say like Wednesday I guess of this week. So I wanted to try to beat that before it came out.
I gotcha. How you been? What are you drinking?
I've been good. I've been busy. Tomorrow we're having somebody come and paint the stairwell that we have. It's too high up, and I'm not gonna break my neck trying to climb up a ladder with kids running underneath it and stuff. So I'm gonna pay somebody else to that's a professional to do that. It hurts because I usually just paint it myself, but it is what it is. Um, but yeah, I mean, outside of that, just trying to enjoy the last couple weeks here before school starts back up. Um, Dude, on 4th of July, I drank an entire fifth. I haven't done that in a minute. Um, I was good though. I mean, I started early in the morning, as God intended, and I was good the next day. But today I just got a club tail from Parker's. It's just a watermelon margarita because I wasn't gonna drink, and then Jen convinced me that I should do it. So here I am. How about you?
Hell yeah. That's the kind of marital support we need.
She's like, you have way more fun when you drink. I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's kind of a problem. She's like, you should do it. Do it. I'm like, all right. You talk me into it.
um, yeah, man, on the fourth, what's that saying? Those who drink a fifth on the fourth will not go fourth on the fifth. You did. You
I did.
beat the
I
odds.
I did it just as our forefathers intended because they were all drunk during that whole fucking thing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the water was barely clean enough to drink at that point in our history. They had to.
I mean, you had to put alcohol in your well water, or else you'd get like the death shits, and that would be it.
I mean, that's what it's like living on the islands now. If you don't purify it, you might as well drink with it because it's not, it tastes like shit.
Yeah.
Um, no, man, so funny enough, one of my friends, his birthday is July 4th.
Hell yeah.
So,
I got two cousins born on the 4th of July too. That's wild.
so he and his family set up a whole spread on the south end of Tybee, and we got extremely lucky and found a parking spot right there by the time
Okay.
we got there at like 2 or 3 in the afternoon.
Wow.
Um, Yeah, and then we just kind of like played games and swam at the beach until the fireworks started. I only drank like 12 or 13 beers.
Oh,
So
that's light
yeah,
work.
light
Yeah.
work. Only 4 or 5 of them were tall boys. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
barely tipsy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Rest of the weekend just doing stuff around the house because, just like in my personal life is my professional life, things only seem to break when it's 100 and something degrees outside. Um, so,
Well, to be fair, in this part of the of Georgia, that's like 5 months out of the year.
yes, but it's never anything that is like get stressed with the heat. So like
Yeah.
last week, the bathroom fan, or as I and many white trash people call it, the fart fan, it broke. Um,
Yeah.
and I bought one to replace it that is designed where you don't have to go in the attic. Very much appreciated. Super
Yeah.
excited about that. To take the old one out, I still had to go in the attic. So I was in the attic last weekend. This weekend, I had to do stuff outside. I'm just convinced that the gods of Savannah want me outside as much as possible to lose more weight. Um, because, eating healthy, not drinking as much soda,
Hmm.
and, I'm still drinking alcohol, but, you know, there's no way to work for, 5 or 6 hours in the attic or in the heat when it's 105 degrees outside and not lose weight. Um,
Right.
So I think that's just my destiny. But before I came on here to record today, they moved the Sunday afternoon disc golf around to 6 p.m. Um, and don't tell Kelsey because she quit listening because she hates me. That's a joke. She loves me. But I may or may not have drank the better part of a 6 pack of Tall Boy PBRs and just poured some of a flask that I found while cleaning stuff this weekend into
Oh yeah.
my Diet Coke for my Wendy's dinner.
Fuck yes. Let's go.
So I am real glad that you're going to be taking over this episode
Yeah.
because it's your article. So
Yeah.
so when we get a little crazy in the next episode that we're recording right after this, y'all can thank, I don't know, the heat, the summer, my lack of discipline is what it is. But I think we're both excited for this episode. We've been in some conversations outside of the podcast about, putting out some content surrounding the game when you get it because I don't play video games and it's not worth me investing $500 into a PlayStation 5. Um,
Well, and especially, I'm sure the next generation of console will probably come out in the next like 2 or 3 years. So then you're gonna have to drop another 500-600 bucks on the next one.
the problem I have is I bought a PlayStation 4 in
Hmm.
2019. Um, and this is not a joke. I may have put 50 hours into playing games on it.
Yeah.
And most of that was during COVID because I bought it late 2019 and then
Hmm.
COVID happened. And I was like, well, can't go to the gym, can't really go to eat out. I guess I'll play PlayStation.
Hmm.
And then I got bored. So I quit.
Yeah.
And it's not worth the money for me to buy one. So I'm thankful you have one and I can come over and we can do some stuff on it with a new football game. And I've got some friends on Tybee that have them that have told me that, if I split the game with them, I can come over and make some content with them on the game. So I have a few different options to not
Yeah.
spend $500 and still have access to it.
There you go. It pays to know people, man.
Yeah, it plays to get drunk in the woods and get drunk on the internet. That's legitimately how I've made pretty much all of my friends as an adult.
I mean, I think that's the only way you can at this point.
Hell,
Not
I
saying
met
you necessarily, like it's
I
I'm
yeah,
the
I
same way.
mean, hell, I met my wife on Tinder. the internet's just kind of how we do things at this point in life.
It is. It's a necessary utility now, for real. Um, all right, so let's go ahead and get into my article of it, and then we'll kind of go over what we already know about the game as far as different rankings and whatnot that have already come out. And like I said earlier, there's going to be another like 3 or 4 days of like content that EA Sports is going to put out. I think starting on Monday, I want to say. So when you guys were listening to this, for the most part, about just different things that will be in the game. I think like I said, I think the rosters come out like Tuesday or Wednesday. So again, we wanted to get ahead of this for just projecting like what we think is like an acceptable like rating for like the top rated dogs that we the team that we care about the most. So let's go ahead and get into it. Carson Beck. I don't know if you have it pulled it up. I'm just going to ask you what you think it is, and then I'll kind of go into what I said. So what do you think? What do you think Carson Beck's going to be rated?
I did read the article.
Hell yeah! Thanks for the click.
Yes, I have opened it a number of times, but
Yeah.
I also have it pulled up. And what I think he should be rated and what I think he will be rated differ substantially. As far and the question for me, because I don't necessarily think this has been answered, is the rating system for college players, is it going to be, on a scale of 1 to 99? Obviously there's no 100 rated players, but is it how, I guess the question is it going to be on the same like Madden scale, which I know they said this game is nothing like Madden, and I truly hope it's not. But is it going to be of like, yeah, this player makes mistakes, but they are still the driving force of their team? Or is it going to be like they have to be mobile, deep ball accurate, short ball accurate, middle accurate, a run threat? But
That's it. Yeah.
as far as rating college quarterbacks, I think Carson Beck is the most pro ready college quarterback. So I would personally have him somewhere above 95, not necessarily too terribly much, but like 95, 96, maybe as high as 97.
So my rationale, I think you're right about that. I don't know. I think they probably do have it rated, like short, intermediate, deep ball, and throwing power, throwing accuracy, all that stuff. I mean, I want to say it's probably going to be the same kind of rating system as Madden. But like you said, it's not, and this game's not supposed to be like a Madden, like just resurface or recover just with college stuff on it.
Think not,
Um,
because if we're being honest, the new Madden's not worth the money.
mm-mm. No, and you know what? To be honest, the only reason why I bought them is because just my kids just like that. They don't ask for a ton, and like when they do ask for stuff, I'm like, all right, I'll get Madden because at least I'll play it once in a while. But like if it was me, I would buy Madden maybe like once every like 4 years because again, I don't play
Because
it that
that's
much.
as
Like
often as they actually change the game.
right, there's only so long you can do the same rosters over and over again, and try to change it all. So I mean, there's that. But with Carson. I mean, I think he's at a minimum he should be a 90. I think and what I put in the article is I projected him to be a 90. Not that I think he's necessarily that. I think it's more so of what EA thinks of him and what maybe others would. And my main reason being he's not like a super mobile quarterback. I mean, he can run when needed, but he's not Michael Vick, he's not Tebow or anything like that. He's a pocket passer in a pro style offense. And I mean, he does very, very well with that. But I don't think that they're going to put him up there, super, super high, like maybe like Quinn Ewers or um, like again, Travis Hunter, Donovan Edwards as they're on the cover. I think they're probably going to make them, hype up their stats a little bit just because they're on the cover. And Carson, to his defense, he is on the cover, albeit just like the
Just
next
secondary.
like third row. Yeah, like you can kind of see his name there, him and Jalen Milrow on the left side. Um, but I mean, I think he'll end up being about a 90. And my understanding is that they're gonna throughout the season, just like they do in Madden, is like update stats and overall like ability. So like he might start off as a 90 and then move up to, if he has like a Joe Burrow type season, which would be awesome, but I'm not saying he's going to. Like he can move up to a 99. Who knows?
Right.
Um, but like I said, going into his second year, really good arm strength, consistently makes good decisions with the ball. And again, if he was a dual threat quarterback, he would probably have a higher rating than a 90. But I'll just on the safe side, I'll say he's a 90. But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he was like an 86 or something like that.
86.
Yeah, because again, he's he's not really one dimensional, but he is in the sense of like playing a video game. Like he's not going to run for 100 yards.
I, I would truly.
It's like I don't think Tom Brady, like in Madden, for example, was ever a 99. I could be way off base there, but
He
like
was
Tom Brady's a
regularly
dinosaur.
over 90.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like if he was, Tom Brady with I don't know Donovan McNabb mobility, he would have been like a 99 all the time,
Yeah,
which is a good thing to say.
I will personally have an issue, and I mean I've talked about it already on this episode. I don't really play video games. I legitimately have not played Madden since I think like Madden 25. I just am not.
Not the newest one that's coming out, but the one that was like the 25th anniversary one, right?
Yes. Well,
You're in the
no,
future.
no. When I bought my PlayStation, it actually came with Madden. So
Mhm.
Patrick Mahomes on the cover around 2019. It might have been Madden 20.
Yeah, that sounds right. That
Okay, that
sounds
that's
right.
probably
Yeah.
that's probably the last one I played. So I'm not big in the video game space, but if Shadur Sanders and or Quinn Ewers with their lack of deep ball accuracy and just regular willingness to take a sack, and if we're being honest, Carson Beck is just as if not more mobile than both of those guys.
Yeah.
If either of those guys are rated higher than him, I will have an issue with that.
I saw somebody on Twitter say, I don't remember who actually said this thing, but they're like, Shadur Sanders is a mix of Michael Vick and Tom Brady. And there's someone said, yeah, he has Michael Vick's skin color and Tom Brady's mobility.
Yeah, it's accurate, except
Yeah.
for um, he also has Jalen Milroe's willingness to take a sack.
That man loves to get hit.
I just, man, I get it. It helps if you have high completion percentage numbers. I
Mhm.
get it.
Like, if you can hang in there and actually complete a pass that's not 40 yards downfield, great.
Right, but if you're getting sacked 200 times a season, that's a wildly outrageous number. I understand that. Hyperbole. Look it up if you don't know the term.
Hyperboil.
But if you're getting sacked as much as Shadur Sanders is and have a 72% completion percentage, it's that high because you refuse to throw the ball away. Like you would rather get negative yards and hurt your team than hurt your individual stats. Um, and I think with social media, we've seen that in his personality. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah. All right. So there's Carson. The next one, and this doesn't necessarily go in order, like in the article that I did. I kind of just did a stream of conscious type thing. Next one was Tate Ratledge. Um, and I'll get into my rating, and I'll ask you about that. I'll get into my rating after you talk about it. But when Tate Ratledge decided to come back this season, obviously the Dogs had a huge, boost to their offensive line. He was one of three Georgia Bulldogs to actually get selected to the Walter Camp preseason first team All American list. So like, if you're a preseason All American, like you're going to be one of the top players in the game. One would assume, right? Um, but what would you think that Tate's rated at to begin the season?
So this is probably one of the more difficult ones for me. And I say
Offensive
that
line is tough to say.
because do what?
I said offensive line is tough to evaluate. I mean, for a video game. I mean, who really knows?
And the problem for me is not even that it's offensive line because I truly think he's one of the best guards in college football, especially coming back for the season. The problem is he has never played 12 games in a season in his college career.
Hmm.
So if you are saying how good is he on a game by game basis, in the 90s somewhere. But if we are projecting his rating and his rating is projecting a full season,
Hmm.
mid to upper 80s, like I think 86, 87, somewhere safe to say.
Hmm.
But if you're saying a day like against Clemson, how good is he going to be? I think he's going to be probably the best individual performer on the offensive line. But it's the injury thing is just what makes me hesitant.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm with you there. Like, so what I said in the article was I thought he would be an 88. So I mean, we're right in the same ballpark with that. And I think that's one thing that doesn't get talked about enough is how much he was dinged up and all that. So that is going to make a difference in his rating. So I'm he might be the one I'm most curious to see what they actually rate him at.
I will say, I don't even know if I've talked about this on the podcast or if I have done enough episodes without a hat for people that watch the YouTube. I'm growing out a mullet. Um, my wife Kelsey told me that I was not allowed to grow my hair back out long again, and I said, "Well, what about a mullet?" And she said, "Yes." Don't the logic? I was sitting at a damn airport for that one. Don't understand it.
That's funny.
Um, but by the time football season comes around, I will be perming my mullet to go full Kenny Powers.
Oh yeah.
So I would love the opportunity to have a mullet competition with Tate Ratledge.
His is immaculate. I think just because he has the mullet and how good it is, he should be at least a 90. But I don't know how. I mean, I
I
know
mean, the
EA is caring a
mullet, he
lot.
wears jersey number 69, but
Guys be dudes.
but I will have the Kenny Powers mullet with a full beard, and
Hell yeah.
I feel like that gives me some bonus points.
It should. It
And
absolutely should.
you know, I know I'm older than him, but I do have more tattoos, so I feel like that gives me a couple extra bonus points. He could probably pick me up and toss me 10, 15 yards.
Yeah.
But just like mullet, just like vibe ratings.
Mm.
I feel like I may have him with the tattoos and a perm Kenny Powers mullet.
If you go to the dog walk, like, the first game of the season that you go to, and you make it sure like you get out there and you to go like look at my pro mullet, like I have a feeling he might come over there and you guys might hit it off.
That would be ideal. I am actually trying to get a legit camera before the season starts,
Hmm.
just for the purpose of I have a connection that can get me on field pregame passes for the games.
Yeah.
So if I can get a camera, I would absolutely go to where the offensive linemen are warming up and be like, "Hey Tate, mullet off?" Question mark. Like I would just have a small sign, and I'd be like, "Also, I have nicotine pouches and a flask. Are you ready to fucking party?" Because, for being honest here, pretty sure the first home game of the season in Auburn, and those boys don't stand a fucking chance if you got a shot of whiskey and a fucking Zen in. Just,
I,
just saying.
where is that Zen, by the way?
Well, it depends. Football pants, you got to tie them pretty tight, so it's got to go above the waist. I'd
Oh,
give
above
him
the
the
waist.
whole.
Oh, okay.
I'd give him the whole fucking pack if he did a upper and a bottom lip. But
Oh no. Oh, that's not where I was talking about it going.
I know it's. And if you listen to this and don't understand, it goes months back in our group chat about different places to put Zen that we probably should not say on a podcast.
You can I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Imaginations run wild, and you probably have already thought about it.
Well, some people don't have that part.
It depends on which part you're talking about.
It's a good point. Who
Yeah,
knows? You know what? If
yeah.
we had like a Patreon, we can go on there and say it. Uh,
I don't know if anybody wants to hear it.
no. Oh shit. Okay. Anyway, okay. So next up is Malachi Starks. Um, Again, he's been a superstar in Athens since his first game, where he had that insane interception against Bo Nix in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game. He's entering his junior season, which is crazy that it doesn't feel like he's been here that long, but at the same time, it's only been 2 years going into his third season. But I would be shocked if he wasn't one of the highest rated defensive players in the country because again, he is a preseason All-American, um, along with again Carson Beck and Tate Ratledge. So where do you think Malachi ranks, or where do you think he's gonna be rated? I should say day one.
So, my question when it comes to this, and you know, going into next year, we may not even do an episode about where we're projecting players to rank coming to the new edition of the game. But without knowing anything about the game, I have questions about how they're going to rate guys, and are they going to rate guys the same way that the NFL draft does? And if so, safety is going to be a very devalued position.
True.
Do I think he is one of, if not the best safety in college football? Absolutely. He's top 3 or 4 without question.
Easily.
Um, so I would say low to mid 90s, just based on if you're doing it by the best player in the position gets the highest rating. And let's
Mhm.
say every position has a guy rated at 99. He should be in the mid 90s. But do they rate it on how NFL scouts are going to look at you? Probably low 90s because safety is not a position drafted very highly.
Mhm. You know what? I was trying to look it up just now. They don't. I mean, they usually don't have a ton of 99s in there. I think like the highest rated Georgia player ever in one of these games, I want to say, was Aaron Murray. I think he was, God, I think he was like a 96 or something like that. He wasn't a 99. I know that. Um, Damn, I can't find it now. I saw it on a graphic somewhere, and now I can't find it. But um, I mean, you're right about the devalued thing. And again, he's probably one of the best defensive players in the country, regardless of position. But I have him in the article. I had him rated at about a 94, or projected at a 94. So kind of, again, right along where you said with that. Again, I wouldn't be shocked if it was a little bit lower or a little bit higher, to be honest with you. I really, again, we have no frame of reference because it's been 11 years since one of these games come out. So it will
And
be
when the
interesting.
last game came out, they weren't even allowed to have active players on
Right.
like they could have lookalikes with similar tendencies and
Yeah.
traits, but they couldn't have real life players. You had to go on the internet for those. And you know what? The people that kept updating rosters between the 2014 game and today,
Mhm.
EA deserves you. EA should absolutely send you guys copies of the game.
I think I heard something that, and again, this could be just totally made up, but I'm pretty sure a reputable source said that the guys that kept like the updated game and like did all the rosters for the NCAA 14 game, they kept updating it and changing stuff all the time. They had a lot of input on the actual like the new game itself. Is my understanding. I could be off base, but I'm pretty sure they had at least some influence over this because obviously they had to be dedicated enough to continually update this game for 10, 11 years
If that is true, EA has done more listening to the people
than ever.
than than I would venture to say pretty much any public entity outside of maybe Elon Musk. And, politically like or dislike Elon, um, he made the SpaceX rockets more pointy out of a meme. And we should all appreciate that.
When that man
So,
bought Twitter, he literally brought in the kitchen sink with him. First post he had. God bless him.
Yeah, like for people that listen to the show, I'm going to assume you're millennial-esque age. Um, you appreciate the humor and things because the world's going to shit. None of us are getting Social Security.
If you ain't gonna laugh, if you're not gonna laugh, you're gonna cry. So
Exactly. Find the humor in it, and Elon's one of us.
absolutely. All right. So next up, we got three more players on this list, and then we'll kind of do an honorable mention thing. So Trevor Etienne, new Georgia running back, transfer from Florida. He might have the most hype out of a Georgia running back since DeAndre Swift, and that's saying a lot. I mean, granted, that was what 5 years ago. Um, he was
God.
yeah, right. He was I mean, not that the Georgia running game hasn't been bad, but you haven't had that like the superstar, running back in a cycle, really. You had good running backs, good split backfields and all that, but I mean, he might be the most, hype guy in a while. He was stellar splitting time in Gainesville the last two seasons. Harrell, the guy that is going to take over like full time in Gainesville, I think he took ETN's number. I think he said they made him number one. They think a lot of him, and I think they made the wrong choice, but that's another discussion. But what were you gonna say?
I you know Billy Napier's not the best judgment of much,
Hmm.
so we'll just ignore that art that whole conversation for now.
But with ETN, he gives Georgia their best pass catching option out of the backfield again since Kenny McIntosh. So I mean, again, not that long, but you didn't really have that option last year too much. Oh. But with that said, what do you think ETN's going to be in this game?
So I know I've said this quite a bit, but this is a tricky one just for if you're going off of ability versus production. And there's also projection in here. And I know this whole thing's about projection, but I mean, like on the field, proven projection.
Mm,
And I say that because Trevor Etienne, if you take what he was able to do at Florida with a bad offensive line, at times a quarterback that could do not much of anything, and little to no wide receiver help, he was extremely explosive. You put that same version of that player behind Georgia's offensive line with Carson back in the wide receiver room and the tight end room, you would expect him to be top two or three in the country in that position.
yeah.
But it's not proven, right?
Mm, right.
And until like I would say mid 80s, 84, 86, somewhere in that
Mm,
range. But should he go into that Clemson game and go off and let's say have 80 receiving yards, 90 rushing yards, two or three touchdowns, I could see that go up 10 points a week because
yeah.
of the quality of Clemson's front seven, but it's just it hasn't been consistently proven yet, so we can only go off of intermittent explosiveness that he showed behind, for being honest, a mid to less than mid Florida offense.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, again, I mean, we're kind of on the same wavelength there. I have him about the same spot. I had him projected at 86. And I started off, I started off at like a 90 when I was starting to write this. And I'm like, a guy that split carries and like, again, a lot of running backs do that at this point. Like, it's not, even like well, it's not like 10 years ago where you're having like Derrick Henry get like 400 carries a season. Um, so, I mean, I had him at 86. And I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't really have like a really, really good reason for it. I just think like EA is based out of Orlando. They probably have a good feel for guys that were in Gainesville in Florida. So, I mean, I don't know if that may sway it a little bit. They might rate him up a little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending on who's in charge of that, portion of it. But yeah, I think, mid 80s is probably a safe bet for him.
And if we are saying what we think they should be rated. I think both of us are low to mid 90s on
Yeah,
Trevor Etienne.
I would say
Um,
at least a 90.
yeah,
Yeah, because he
but
was good. He did a lot with not a whole lot around him.
exactly, and that's we're projecting what they will be ranked, not necessarily what they should be ranked or what they will be ranked at the end of the season,
Mhm.
but what we think when the game comes out in today's the 7th. So everyone that bought the regular game should be getting it on the what 19th.
Mhm.
Um, it's been rumored that it's going to come out early. It's been rumored that it could come out in as little as a week or less. But we're projecting what they are going to start the game rated as.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
you know,
I yeah. I got so again. I when I was talking about it earlier. So I bought the deluxe bundle because it came with Madden and in this game. So I got an email saying I'm gonna get it on the 15th, but everything I saw saying was gonna be the 16th. Um, we'll see. I'll get on there at midnight on after we record next Sunday and see what happens. Um,
oh, I'll so it'll what day of the week is it supposed to come out on?
so the for everybody it's supposed to be Friday the 19th. Um, when you get the deluxe one, you're supposed to get it 3 days early. So you're supposed to get on the 16th, which is a Tuesday. I got an email saying it was going to be the 15th, or it'd be available on the 15th. I don't know if I can just download it and not play it at that point. I don't know. I don't buy a lot of video games, so I don't know. I don't know how this shit works.
Well, I can tell you that if you do get it on the 15th and you let me know, I will absolutely come over after I get off work that day. And
Hell yeah.
should that happen, because we obviously don't know yet, check our social medias. We may be doing a live stream of gameplay.
We'll do like Georgia Bama and just like put it on easy and just beat Bama but like 250 to nothing. Just for shits and gigs.
Yeah. No, I'll play the Bama quarterback and be like, oh, X is the Georgia defensive back. I'm going to throw it to X. Wait, you have an Xbox. I have not played an Xbox in 15 years.
There's an X on there
Okay, okay. Yeah, no,
somewhere.
I've legitimately never owned an Xbox. It's always been Nintendo or PlayStation for me, so I have no idea how those controls work.
I okay, so it's weird because I've never owned a PlayStation. I just the triangle and X and square, it pisses me off. I don't know why. It's irrational. There's not really a reason for it, so I refuse to buy a PlayStation. I need all the letters.
So to me, and I understand this is a person by person thing, the joystick placement on the PlayStation is more comfortable to me.
Yeah.
The both at the bottom thing, I like it.
I don't. I don't know. I've had what every generation of Xbox. I just like the way it is. At this point, they got me hooked in. Just like if you're an Apple or Android person, like you're set.
Yeah, and there's one person that's correct, and there's one person that owns Apple.
Anyway, um, who's to say who's who on this podcast? I don't know.
I
Um,
mean, if you want an iOS update that brings you features that Android had a decade ago, it's perfectly fine.
but if you want a camera that looks like you had, I don't know, like PlayStation 1 graphics, you get an Android.
To be fair to everyone here, Apple actually buys their cameras from Samsung, and it's a setting within iOS that makes Android pictures come in at a lesser quality to iOS phones.
That doesn't shock me in the least. Not at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a reason that Apple is switching to USB-C chargers because they were considered a monopoly on the charger market in the European Union, and they're too lazy to come out with different versions of the phone So now all new Apple phones have USB-C, which is the
I'm not against
better
that. I like that.
charging port. I agree.
Yeah, good guy Apple by force by the courts. Shout out the European Union. You did something. That's cool.
Other than crash the world, uh,
What the economy?
world economy. I was about to
Yeah,
say economics, and I was like, that's not the right word.
you fucked up our macroeconomics, European Union. Thank you. All right, so Michael Williams. He was featured prominently in the first trailer for the game. He was shown just like hitting the shit out of Jalen Milrow.
As he
Um,
should be.
yeah. Um, I mean, he really turned it on, like, later in the season once he got comfortable in his new position. He's gonna be standing up a good amount this year. So where do you think that he's gonna be projected day one?
So this is the one that I feel like is the most. I don't want to say the easiest projection, but I also don't want to say it's
Oh,
going to be a difficult projection.
okay.
And I would say he's mid to upper 80s based on where he has played over the last few years with his athleticism, explosiveness, all that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. But him moving to more of a stand-up linebacker, 3-point stance linebacker, defensive end position, and the trailer.
Yeah.
Man, if he's anything not close to a 92, I would be shocked because I feel like EA is giving away a lot with the trailers,
Mhm.
intentionally so.
Yeah. You wouldn't put like a B player like just like tearing shit up, right?
Right, and for a guy like Jalen Milrow to be on that, if we're gonna call it this, the same tier as Carson Beck for the cover, because
Mhm.
they're pretty much in line in that tunnel shot that we've all seen.
Yeah.
If you're gonna show a guy like Jalen Milrow, who's on the cover, getting obliterated by Michael Williams, you're not
Mhm.
going to have Michael Williams in the low 80s.
Right.
That's not going to be how that works. So I would assume high 80s, low 90s, but I'd really be shocked if he wasn't 92 to 9 or 90 to 94 somewhere in there.
I had him at an 86, so like kind of like where you started to say. I mean, it's tough to say because I mean, his production's kind of been all over the place. I mean, he's not a superstar yet, right? So like, I mean, like if you're a 90, like I mean, you should be a household name. I think Michael I mean, around SEC circles, sure. I think most people know who Michael Williams is. But like, if you were to ask somebody out, west of the Mississippi, if we're gonna ask somebody from Oklahoma who Michael Williams was,
Well, it depends on if
I
they
don't know.
watched the national championship game versus TCU.
Yeah, which I mean, most people turn it off after the first quarter.
Most people turned it off after the first series. Um, it
Not me.
it it truly was one of the least watched national championship games in quite some time. But if you pay attention to anything around college football, you know who Michael Williams is. The
Mm,
last Georgia defensive end that had like mid productions with flashes of explosiveness in college is a guy you guys may have heard of him. He happened to be the number one overall draft pick, Trayvon Walker.
yeah,
So I think I'm hoping, and to be fair to all of you guys, this is as much hope as it is projection. But I think EA respects just based on where they've already announced, Georgia's offense is, Georgia's defense is. I think they respect the scheme that Georgia plays defense in, which is elite defensive line that doesn't get a lot of stats because they play their position.
yeah.
And Michael is transitioning positions to be a defensive end, outside linebacker, just cause pain is essentially what his position is this season.
Weapon, weapon,
Athlete.
human missile.
His position is defense. in
Heat
2024.
heat seeking missile.
And I think he respects that after, the way that Kirby has brought the program. So I would say somewhere close to 90
Hmm.
is, as much hope as it is projection. But would it shock me if he was in the mid 80s? Absolutely not. Would it shock me if he was in the mid 90s? Absolutely not. He's probably got the widest range of really acceptable projections out there.
Yeah, I would say so. I agree with that. All right, and then kind of last one that was in the article itself, linebacker C.J. Allen. So with him, he's a true sophomore, so we only have 1 year of tape on him. But obviously, he freaking killed it. Like when once he took over for Jamon Dumas Johnson for Pop, after his forearm fracture. Um, and if you remember going back to the spring game, his crazy interception that he ended up having, he should be in line for a good season. He changed his number to number 3. Um, so hoping to be another Roquan Smith type player. But again, he's going to be a problem in real life and in the video game. So with that said, where do you think he's going to be projected day one?
I would, sorry, um, based on his being a sophomore, based on his, kind of like split playing time next year or
Mhm.
last year, I should say. Um, I would say mid 80s, but
Yeah.
I would not be surprised in the slightest if he had a meteoric rise to low to mid 90s by, the Bama game maybe a little bit early, but should he have a big game in Tuscaloosa, would not shock me to see him at a 94 by midseason.
Yeah, it's tough with him because again, like, he only started, again, about half the season last year. Um, but like he took over for again another preseason All American and did arguably better than he did. I
Oh,
mean, Pop is up there in Kentucky with Brock. Now. So I mean, he probably he's probably in the position to increase like the most during the season if they do, which I assume they do like mid-season or like week to week updates on it. He probably has the most room to go from where he's at to again like superstar of any of the guys that we talked about so far.
yeah, and I think that is primarily due to his being a true sophomore.
Mm,
Um, I'm not sure how many listeners we have that are new and were not necessarily around at the beginning of last season. Um, but he was one of the guys I paid a ton of attention to late in the first game of the season
mm,
because I took my nephew to his first college football game last year in the first game, and CJ Allen went to the same school that he does, so he was like he had a whole sign about CJ. We went to the dog walk, all that kind of stuff. But every play, he was asking me where CJ was. So, like, when the dogs were on defense, he was most of my focus, so I could, talk to my nephew about what was going on. And between the first game of the season and the last game he played in, significant difference. I mean,
yeah.
just within 14 games last year, he had an insane jump in production. So is EA going to project, that same jump with a full off season under his belt, or are they going to say he's taken off from where he left in the Orange Bowl with? We don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be. I'm super intrigued to see how they end up doing this. That's a huge undertaking to rate. If you do 85 guys in each roster, there's 134 teams. That's a lot, and you're gonna get some shit wrong.
And not only that, but there are plenty of teams that have walk-ons that play a significant role in their
Yeah.
team.
Hmm.
I mean, just for Georgia, there are two guys that could potentially play significant parts in the team this year that are not on scholarship. I mean, between Dan
And
Jackson
yeah.
and Cash Jones,
Who?
Cash Jones.
Hell yeah.
Um, like just to right off the cuff for Georgia, and there's no telling how many other teams across the country have those kind of players. So you would just generously assume 90 people per team need ratings because, there's plenty of kickers who aren't on scholarship, plenty of long snappers who aren't on scholarship that are going to be in a ton of plays for this
Yeah.
game. I, you would just assume 90 players per team. And as someone who does what I do between, doing the podcast, working my full time job, disc golf, I could not imagine going through what these guys have gone through. And I understand there's a significant financial benefit behind it, but it seems they have gone about it the way that as fans we would want them to go about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So do you want to hit on the honorable mention part of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we got two guys there that I didn't include in the article. So first was tight end Oscar Delp, and I put him in there because I think in one of the trailers for the game he had the star uh
Not
logo
only
thing.
that, he
What's
was
that? Oh, he had the.
also he scored a touchdown where he put a guy in the washer on a spin cycle
Mhm.
and scored a touchdown
That he
in that
did.
same trailer.
Hmm. So yeah, you have the star thing on there, dead leg somebody to hell. I mean, he so he could be up there, and that's an interesting one too, because I'm not. I mean, obviously he played a decent amount once Brock got hurt and kind of split time with him, even when he came back. But I mean, I think that's a huge like projecting. Like you think he's going to be really really good.
To me, Oscar is very similar to Trevor Etienne without the
Mhm.
transfer aspect of it.
Yeah,
Because when Oscar had opportunities over the last couple of years, when he had the ball
jumping over
thrown to
dudes.
him, yeah, yeah, no, he looked like a larger Brock Bowers when he was given the
Mhm.
opportunity over the last couple of years.
Mhm.
So it's projecting within the same team, but once again, going back to they put him on the trailer thing, mid to high 80s, I do not think is out of the question.
Yeah, it's tough because I don't know how much are they going to value tight ends. I have no idea. I don't have necessarily have a number that I would put him at. I mean, at a minimum, I mean I would probably put him at an 80 at a minimum.
So, so I will say, literally just popped into my head, even though we've been talking about this for almost an hour now. They have the Georgia offense at a whole at a 94.
Yeah. So you have a
So,
bunch of guys on there.
yeah, but if they have, let's say, Carson Beck at a 90 and Trevor Etienne at a 80 something, Tate Ratledge at a 90, who puts them at a 94? It's got to be somebody,
Hmm.
you know? So
That would be
whether it's
wild if like
Carson or
Oscar.
Trevor or Oscar or
Yeah.
Dominic Lovett, they're projecting him to fill the Lad McConkey role that was left in the offense. Who
Hmm.
knows? But there is some reason that Georgia's at a 94, 95 on offense.
It's London Humphreys.
I believe that. Number one
Yeah.
wide receiver in the transfer portal.
Hmm.
Um, Wild questions on how much playing time he actually gets this year.
Hmm.
With I feel like we said this at both of the last 2 years, but the wide receiver room and pass catcher room as a whole just continues to get better.
Yeah.
Where does he fit in? I don't know. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah. And then the last one, and we kind of talked about that, was Ben Urasek, the transfer tight end from Stanford. Yeah, Stanford. Sorry. Um, the big pole with the big pole. I mean, I don't know where he can fucking start. I mean, they can be running 13 personnel. It can look like Brock and Darnell. So who know? I mean, who knows? It's like an Eastern European Brock and Darnell. Let's go.
Yep. A lot of people probably don't remember this. Darnell was from Vegas, so out west, just like Ben Urasek. I don't know where he fits in. He wasn't here in the spring, but he was the number one tight end in the transfer portal.
And he had
So
some good years in Stanford. Not so much last season, but the 2 years before that, he was a weapon for them. As much as one could be in that for that team that wasn't very good.
I was about to say, what is a good season for Stanford last year?
He didn't. I think he was hurt a decent amount, or he just didn't have quarterback play. But he had some, 500-yard plus seasons. I think his freshman and sophomore year. So like he, again, with the level of talent around him for him to be able to do that, I'm impressed by it. I'm sure,
Yeah,
and Kirby was too, to let him on the team or offer him to be on the team.
and especially, Kirby is not one of those coaches that will just offer anybody and everybody out of the transfer portal.
Mhm.
He does a lot more of, if you're not here in the spring, you're not on the team kind of transfers.
Yeah.
Um, but Ben Urasek got here in June.
Mhm.
So Kirby obviously trusts him and his ability quite a bit. I think a large part of that, this is obviously speculation. I think a big part of that is how intelligent you have to be to get into Stanford, because they're not one to lower their academic standards for a athlete. Um, so he thinks that Ben will be able to pick up the offense pretty quick. But for a guy to put up significant numbers in an offense the quality of Stanford's, you have to be a dude. Like
Mhm.
you're not just a guy. You're a dude.
Yeah.
So I have high hopes for him. I think based on his production so far in college, 80 to 84 would not surprise me. But,
Hmm.
should they come out in some, you know, going back to the 2021 Orange Bowl against Michigan, should they come out in some of those formations and do some insanity with Oscar and Ben and Lawson?
Oh, sign me up.
Yeah, like he's another one of those guys that I expect will start lower, but could absolutely jump way up the ratings board quickly.
Hmm. Oh yeah. It will. I mean, I'm probably again at least an 80. I would think. I mean, maybe 78. I don't know because again, he played at Stanford. I don't know how many people are watching Stanford. Um, Again, didn't have the production last season necessarily. I don't know how far back they looked at it because again, it was a big undertaking. One thing that I will note that I probably should have said at the top is guys can opt out of this game, so we don't know if we're necessarily going to have all these guys in the game.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but absolutely.
Because like
Um,
we know, like one we know Arch Manning's not in the game. Not that that matters, as he, second, third string quarterback on Texas. But um, I mean, we could have not have two or three of these guys in the game. Probably not, but
I will
who
say
knows?
from social media posts, I know Carson's in it. I know
Yeah,
Trevor
yeah.
Etienne's in it. I know Mike
Michael's got to be in
Williams
it.
is in it. I
Yep.
believe CJ Allen's in it, and I believe Oscar Delpa's in it. So that
Okay.
leaves us with
My
Malachi,
Malachi.
who I know y'all are asking a dude with a brain injury to remember way far back on a social media post he spent half a second looking at. But I would say 60-40 he's in it. Tate may not be, and I truly have no idea about the tight ends.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. We'll should find out this week about it. And I'm curious as to what their contingency plan with that is. Like, I mean, they're definitely not going to do like a similar player with the same number and all that because they're going to get sued again.
I
Um,
mean, if they put Yin Burasek as a tight end on Georgia,
how many polls does Georgia have on this team?
enough.
Still in the Big Ten.
Yeah, you know what? With a name like Urosek, they could win the Big Ten this year.
They could. I'm sure Stanford was this close to getting to the Big Ten before they didn't want be they weren't wanted and went to the ACC.
You know, Stanford has that high academic standard that the Big Ten requires.
Hmm.
That I'm absolutely sure that the California schools uphold.
Probably.
Absolutely. It's not like you hear regularly people in California choose to go to USC and UCLA because they're giant party schools where people can get easy drugs and shot at.
Hmm.
It's not a thing.
Fair. No, definitely not. I don't know. I mean, do you want to necessarily touch on the stuff we know about, or you think we're good?
Yeah, no, I think we're good.
Okay.
We talked about this at some depth. I think everybody's pretty aware of what's going on outside of this. I know that we're excited for the game to come out. Like I said, I plan on mooching off of you and some other friends to play the game and make some content and that sort of thing. So we're excited for it.
Definitely.
And I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Nothing Finer podcast. As always, guys, follow us on social media at nothing.finer.pod on Instagram, at finerpod on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube. Just look us up, Nothing Finer Podcast. TikTok is Nothing Finer Podcast. Once again, rate and review the show if you have not already. Please give us 5 stars. And as always, remember, there's nothing finer in the land.
The drunken, obnoxious George fan. Good Lord.